first article is regarding the Padmavat movie. As we know that I'm in a school bus with children on board and even teachers. It was attacked by the Karni Sena protesters. So this article is revealing that how it is the failure of the state and the state machinery to enforce the law and order within the state, that even a school bus carrying children, it's been attacked. Fine. So the thing is that the image collectively frames the abdication of state governments in maintaining law and order. That means the state governments, majorly Gujarat, Rajasthan, and the different states. Where the protesters are trying to ban this movie. They're protesting to ban this movie. So the it's saying that how the state government kind of renunciate their responsibility of maintaining law and order, fine, under the wrath of Karni Sena violence. Fine. Now see, for the thing is that many of these states or they see, this is the view of this article, that many of these states and state governments have basically played an encouraging role in keeping up protest against the film, with the chief ministers of Rajasthan, Gujarat, UP, and Madhya Pradesh, and among others, issuing statements about the need of the film to be banned. I mean, the film should heed to the whatever the history of that particular character is. So the state governments themselves, they are encouraging these protests. The writer is trying to say this indirectly. Now, see, the film is definitely cleared by Central Board of Film Certification. Even then, the protesters are trying to ban the movie. Fine, and even then, the states are saying that it's going to be too much violence, and there should be stay on the release of the movie. But see, the although CBFC has cleared the movie, but the mob is clearly led by its own narrative, unmindful of the reality of the film in question, of the historical blurriness in it. I mean, those who are protesting, they are unmindfully just following their own narrative, and they don't even know what's inside the movie. Fine, is it really, I mean, distorting history or not? So the next is that. Uh, this whole thing, how the mob is working and how the violence is being created, this demonstrated the state's ability that to hold public order to ransom no matter what. That means the mob has somehow, this subjugated the state's ability to maintain the law and order. This is this entire thing, and which is going on regarding this movie, it shows this. Although in time and again, Supreme Court has basically, asserted to protect freedom of expression, and in S Rangarajan versus P Jagjeevan Ram in 1989 case, Supreme Court held that the government cannot cite the possibility of violence to prohibit a film screening. That means you cannot say, the states cannot say that there is a possibility of violence, and so this film should not be screened. It's your responsibility to maintain the law and order. If a particular movie is being cleared by the censor board, judiciary has no objection on it, then it's the state responsibility. You cannot say that we'll not release this movie because we are having possibility of violence. The court in the movie, regarding movie Padmavat, state the ban, and also it reiterated, time and again repeated that state's responsibility to maintain law and order during its screening. Fine. So the thing is that now what happens, earlier also, when Akbar movie was released, Karni Sena also protested in this form. Fine. Now with Padmavat also. See, the conclusion with this, what we are getting is that movie, it may be the case that movie may not be remembered for its merits or for its shortcomings. People will tend to forget, okay, what Padmavat was, but it is definitely showing the government's failure to control the mob, and in fact after an attack on the school bus carrying children. So it's definitely, it's the failure of the government. The second article is regarding euthanasia, and there are different views regarding euthanasia, that whether see, first thing is that euthanasia, it's of two types. The first is the passive and the second is the active one. In the passive euthanasia, if for a terminally ill patient who is in a vegetative state, fine, it's worse than coma state. So what the doctors they do, they basically withdraw the life support system, fine, and it's legal in India, it's allowed in India. And under active euthanasia, which is not allowed in India, what they did, they induce certain sort of injections or certain sort of medicine into the body of that patient to actively kill, kind of killing that person. Okay, the correct word is not, one should not use kill, but it's kind of active euthanasia. So the thing is this, now these are two type of euthanasia, one is legal and one is not legal in India. Now this particular portion of the article is saying that article 21, fine, article 21 of the constitution gives the right to life, fine. Now the writer, the writer is saying that under article right to life, it also gives me the right to take away my life, fine. Right to life gives me take away my life also, because within the right to life is right to live with dignity. And if someone is in pain or is in such a condition that his or her dignity cannot be maintained, then he or she must have the right to take away his or her life, fine. So the argument is this, that she is basically supporting that euthanasia active one should also be allowed. Now the thing is that already section 309, which is basically regarding suicide, okay, under Indian Penal Code, it prescribes punishment for attempting suicide. It's an offense that you cannot do. I mean, if suppose if someone wants to take away their life, so they cannot do so by committing suicide, because it's an offense. What if they survive? So with what if a person survives, so instead of giving that person counseling, he or she will be sent to jail. The thing is this, so the only option left for a person to give away his or her life is to seek permission regarding active euthanasia, fine. Now there is a couple, I'm sorry if the pronunciation is wrong, but I guess it's Lavte. It's a couple, Narayan Lavte and Iravati Lavte in Maharashtra, and they are seeking euthanasia from the court, because they say that they don't have any children, they don't have any relatives, and so their condition is, they are physically well and they are mentally alert, but they don't want to live their life, they don't want to be a burden on the society, and it's with their consent that they want to end their life, but they cannot commit suicide, because what if they survive, then it will be an offense and they will be sent to jail, fine. The thing is this, now the writer is saying that if their demand is driven by logic, it's not because of any spirituality spirituality or something like that, but their demand is because of a logic. They don't want to, there is no point in living only because a legal system demands, fine. And as I've told earlier, they cannot commit suicide, so they are seeking permission to end their lives. Now she's saying, but it's highly unlikely that the state will listen to their request, because India is still not comfortable with the concept of euthanasia, fine. We are not that comfortable with this euthanasia and all. And in Aruna Schonberg versus Union of India 2011 case, it definitely bring a radical change in the entire debate of euthanasia, when court basically allowed passive euthanasia, but it was for a patient who was in a permanently vegetative state, fine. And 2011 judgment helped to push the debate to the extent of permitting passive euthanasia for the terminally ill patients under strict supervisions. And regarding passive euthanasia, it's within the supervision of High Court and a team of doctors, okay. But 2011 judgment of Aruna Schonberg, it allowed only passive euthanasia. And the thing is that next she's saying that this regarding this demand of love days, it's unlikely to be heard because obviously they are not in a terminally ill condition, or they are not physically, problematic condition. They are mentally alert and good in condition, so their demand is unlikely to be accepted because India is not comfortable with this view. Now, she's talking about living wills, and actually in living wills, what happens that if a person who is, quite sound with mind and health, he prepares a bill beforehand, that if suppose someday in my old age, or because of some reason I reach to a vegetative state, then I should be, my family members, or they need not to seek permission, and uh, you can give me euthanasia and something like that. So this is regarding living wills. Beforehand they are preparing the bills regarding their death. Anyways, so the thing is that, um, fine, I have told you what is this living will is this, but she's again reiterating is her own words, that Supreme Court is likely to take a decision on living wills in 2018, even as a draft bill on withdrawal of life support to patients with terminally illness is under consideration. So she is quite pessimistic that active euthanasia will not be allowed in India, and however, she is of the support of the view that it should be allowed in India because this demand is driven by logic, and so it must be considered. Fine. Now let's see what's the next view is. Next view is saying that he's a doctor, and he's saying that this active euthanasia should not be allowed. Fine, because there are high chances that it can be misused in India. So he's saying that I don't think that India is ready to do this, and even if it's allowed in certain Western European nations, even then there are certain conditions on which it is allowed. It's not means it's not that it's euthanasia is for everybody. Fine, anyone who is seeking euthanasia can be given. It's not like that. And he's giving example of Switzerland as well, that in Switzerland it's only allowed in case of advanced malignancy or in the case of interactable pain and suffering. So there are certain conditions to it even in those countries. Fine. He's saying that it's a complex issues because obviously there are a lot of chances of its misuse, and it should be a big no for mentally alert people. As in the case of Lavates, they are mentally alert people, so obviously there should be no, no permission regarding euthanasia should be given, because see, there is probability of its misuse. Whether it's demanded, means it may be demanded for property, it may be monetary gains, sometimes animosity or to seek revenge, sometimes old couples, they may be forced to seek euthanasia. So if especially in this country like India, it should not be allowed, where people are not fully developed enough, fine, compared to the Western European nations. So okay, now the next thing is that he's saying regarding passive euthanasia, that even passive euthanasia is given under certain conditions. So how can we allow active euthanasia first of all? And see, the debate here is not with regarding that active euthanasia should be there or not. The debate is regarding this Lavte's couple, that whether the mentally alert people, they can be given euthanasia or not. The debate is around this. So he's saying that even passive euthanasia for terminally ill patients is given under certain conditions. And what is that condition? It's there is a Glasgow coma scale. Okay, and under this it basically measures the level of consciousness of the patient, and for a normal individual the score is 15. Fine. And for those whose brain is dead, the score is 3. So if the this Glasgow coma scale is 3, the possibility of recovery of that patient is practically 0, unless there is a miracle, and miracles rarely happen. Fine. So if the score is 3, only then the passive euthanasia is allowed. Fine. So if there is a condition in passive euthanasia, then how can we allow this euthanasia for mentally alert people? The thing is this. Now, uh, see, again the same thing, that Laftes are physically fit and nobody should or can allow them. In fact, if they are physically fit, mentally alert, then they can contribute to the society in many ways. Fine. So this is its view that because the euthanasia can be misused, so it should not be allowed for mentally sound people. Fine. Next, the next thing this is, he's saying that it's complicated. Fine. He is not supporting that it should be given, it should be not be given. He is not saying from the philosophical or from the medical grounds. He's saying from the perspective of legislations and legislative grounds. Now let's see what he's saying. He's saying that no legislation lays down procedure to permit a person to take their own life. There is no procedure for a person to take his own life. Fine. So the thing is that uh, he's saying that, see, the right to life was made more sacrosanct and over the years has been seen as a basic feature of Indian constitution. Fine. This article 21, it's now been considered as the basic feature of Indian constitution. So the significance of this is that if one relinquishes the right, one can do so only in accordance with the procedure established by law. See, one can take, means if right to life is being taken, then it can be only with the procedure established by the law, as is done in the case of capital punishment. Fine. So, to terminate life, even one's own life, it cannot be without any law. And if one is doing this thing, taking his or her own life under the absence of any law, definitely it's an unlawful act. Okay. Now, the thing is that up till now, regarding euthanasia, because we are not having any legislation, so courts are dealing with these matters in an ad hoc manner. It depends on the conscience of a particular bench of court, or not the bench, sorry, it depends on the conscience of the judge of the court, case to case wise, that whether to allow euthanasia or not. So it is basically somewhat ad hocism is there in the approach because of the absence of legislation on it. So he's saying that, see, the debate is not that whether we can take our life or not. The debate is whether under the right to life, do we have the right to choose, even that we can choose this particular option for us to take our life. So the debate is around this, and he is saying that a proper legislation needs to be made and the courts needs to come with a certain sort of definite answer regarding this. So this was all about this. Other articles in today's Hindu are not that important. One is regarding Germany's internal politics, and the other one is regarding Air India, but I don't think that it's that important, so I have not covered. Thank you.